Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 2 of the Memorial Memo, KSR's Kentucky Women's Basketball Podcast. Katie, before we even get started, before we even jump in, I just want to thank, the people behind the show, obviously you, and, just everyone who paid attention to that first episode because, Katie, it was a much bigger success than I really thought it could have ever been.
Yeah, same. I'm really thankful for everyone who decided to tune in to two interns talk about a sport that wasn't very popular last season, but obviously this season's very exciting and new. So I'm thankful for you guys for tuning in.
Of course, and we're going to go ahead and hop right into it because we got a lot to talk about today. Now, Katie, this is something you pointed out to me, and so I want you to be the one to tell everybody about it in case they haven't seen it. Single game season or single game tickets anyway, they're on sale now.
So, like I said, this is an exciting season. So, if anybody is interested in making their way to a game this season, you definitely should. Single game tickets are on sale, and the prices range from $15 to $25. Or those are the reserve seats. Reserve seats are $15 to $25, and then single game tickets. I'm reading this straight from the website. It says they're $8 to $15. I'm assuming for the bleachers, which I think are general
I think
admission.
that's what that would be. Yeah. So there's one side of Memorial Coliseum that's chairbacks. There's the other side that's bleachers. I would assume that is specifically for the bleacher side.
Yeah, and then as of yesterday, there were less than 25 reserve season tickets remaining. So
That's
if
awesome.
any of you guys want to hop on the train, make sure to pick those up. And then they've also released all of the promotions that they're going to be doing. So they have like a military game. They have a Space Jam theme night. So if anyone loves the movie Space Jam, camo hat giveaway. That's really exciting, which is a salute to veterans night. So, and then they also have one for the Louisville game. They're calling it Battle of the Bluegrass. They've done this every single year. And it is right after the game at the game at Kroger Field, the football game at Kroger Field against Louisville. Yep. So 2 Louisville games in one day. I think that can make for a really fun Saturday.
It definitely could. So Katie, actually real quick, Space Jam with Michael Jordan or Space Jam with LeBron?
Definitely Michael Jordan.
Okay,
I don't think I've seen the LeBron one.
I'm glad we agree on that. Moving on to more of our more specific topics here. Grayson Bugua, just a little recruiting update. Grayson Bugua commits to Louisville. She committed to the Cards over Kentucky and a select group of other schools. Katie, it sucks because I think this is the one that it seemed like, well, if you're going to get any of them, this is the one you're going to get, right? I mean, she's, I talked to people close to her, and she was very high on Kentucky. Like, I don't want this to be like, well, it was always Louisville, and she was very high on Kentucky. She loved the staff. I think she still she loves the staff. She loved her time at Big Blue Madness and on her visits. But I mean, Jeff Walz is gonna Jeff Walz. He's gonna recruit. He's always been good at that. Moving on, or you go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I'd love to have some kind of insight into what makes Louisville the more attractive school, because to me it's like, okay, Louisville is historically a good program, but if you want to come into a new school and kind of make your name as one of the newest players of the Kenny Brooks era, I just feel like that's a little bit, to me, more attractive, especially because I think there was some kind of secret scrimmage between Ole Miss and Louisville, and Louisville got beat by 20.
Right.
So it's like, I don't know. I don't know.
Right. And to be fair,
to know that.
I will say, to be fair, the secret scrimmage stuff, it's so hard to gauge because, yes, I think Ole Miss is going to be pretty good this season, but Louisville should be too. Coaches, they try out a lot of stuff. I wouldn't like Kentucky. I guess it's public now. Kentucky has a secret scrimmage against Ohio State coming up. Number 14, Ohio State at that. We could lose by 20. Yeah. They could lose by 20. Things are going to happen. Katie, we're going to move on to the rest of the recruiting talk here. And kind of what you just hit on about Louisville, I want to get to that in a second. But first, just want to say that, there's a lot happening in a very short period amount of time here before the early signing period. Agat McKeer, she's top 10 prospect, I think, on like every recruiting service, including on threes. She's visiting UConn this week. That's just from the stuff you see. I mean, it's her dream school. It's her last visit. tea leaves probably indicate UConn, but I personally, that's not inside scoop. That's just me as in from an outsider trying to gauge that. That Kentucky is still definitely a school in play for her. Mm-hmm. And then there's Denia Prawl, Kaylin Carroll, and Maddie Parrish, who are all getting closer to their commitments now. I don't think Maddie Parrish is actually – I don't know how much she's considering Kentucky. Last I heard, it was kind of down to Purdue and West Virginia. We'll see if that's actually much of anything there. But Carroll and Prawl, I think Kentucky is in the mix for those two top 20 kids. I mean, as much as you can be. And now, Katie, I'm going to talk about Zakiya Johnson. Because why? Because I'm basically just insane. And if we get her to commit here, then that is the greatest thing ever. You were talking about Louisville and why you should want to come to Kentucky over Louisville. Well, actually, you know what? First, actually, no. We'll go with Louisville. We'll talk about Louisville first. It's hard to compare Kentucky and Louisville because Louisville obviously has the better history. Mm-hmm. But Katie, I don't know about unless I'm missing something. Zakiya Johnson's not going to play 15 years ago. She's going to play next year.
Yeah.
So I think it's more reasonable to compare the recent history of things than, Louisville went to the Final Four, years, however many years ago. Mm-hmm. So anyway, we're just going to dive into just straight numbers, Katie. You ready? This is no bias from me, the Kentucky guy. This is numbers. This is stats and such, okay? The most recent Final Four, and we're going to compare Kenny Brooks and Louisville, okay? Who has the most recent Final Four, Kenny Brooks or Louisville, Katie?
Kenny Brooks.
Kenny Brooks, 2023. Louisville was in 2022. We're going to play a little game here, and I imagine you're going to get every answer right. Who has the more recent ACC regular season title, Louisville or Kenny Brooks?
Obviously, Kenny Brooks.
Kenny Brooks won the ACC regular season title last year. Louisville hasn't done it since 21. Most recent ACC regular season runner-up.
Is this a trick question?
No, none of this is trick. No.
Runner-up?
Yeah, runner-up. Yeah. The more recent runner-up.
Louisville?
No, it's Kenny. It's still Kenny. 22-23 in Louisville the year before. And then the more recent ACC tournament champion, Katie, if you haven't figured out the theme of what I'm getting at here, who do you think has the more recent thing there?
It's Kenny.
It's Kenny. Did it in 2023 when he beat Louisville, by the way, 75-67. And then Louisville's last one was in 2018.
I feel like something to note is when you posted that article about Big Blue Madness and everyone on Twitter was going crazy on you, all of the Louisville fans, because of Kentucky and Louisville's history. That's Kentucky. That's Kyra Elzy against Louisville. That's not Kenny Brooks against Louisville.
Well, that's also the end of Matthew Mitchell.
Well,
but
yes.
The end of Matthew Mitchell wasn't the same as, like, normal Matthew Mitchell, to be fair.
Just because Kentucky has lost to Louisville, how many times? 7?
I think it's 7 consecutive.
7 in a row. This is not last year's Kentucky. This is not the same Kentucky that it was.
That's what I'm saying.
So I'm keeping an open mind.
You know what, Katie? I like that. And here's some more just numbers. Kenny Brooks has a 3-game winning streak over Louisville. UK has more, and this isn't numbers, but I guess it kind of is. I feel Kentucky has more resources than Virginia Tech does. So why, when Kenny Brooks comes to Kentucky, should he not be able to carry over that same level of success? At Louisville Live, and kind of you just hit on Big Blue Madness, Louisville Live, 8,000 people. Big Blue Madness, 20,000 people. I feel like it's a pretty significant thing there. And then, for the case for UK over LSU, because that's the other school she's considering, look, I get why you're considering LSU, okay? Kim Mulkey, Angel Reese, national title, Flau'jae Johnson. All right, here's the thing. When you go to LSU, yes, you're going to be in a melting pot of culture and brand. But that's also kind of part of the problem. You're going to be another spoke in the wheel. Zakiya Johnson's just going to be, you're just going to be number 11 for the LSU Tigers. You're not going to be Zakiya Johnson, what would be the biggest commit in the history of Kentucky women's basketball. And that's just a fact. Kentucky's brand, I think it's at an all-time high. And I get it, LSU, they have, if not the best, one of the best NILs in the SEC. And honestly, I'm pretty confident in saying they have probably the best NIL situation in the SEC. But Kentucky's brand is at an all-time high. Mm-hmm. me and you have you. What other college in the SEC or really even around the country has people doing a women's basketball podcast about their specific program? I'll tell you, there aren't many, if there are any else. Okay, Kentucky, the coverage here, and this isn't just me, praising the Memorial Memo folks. This is just factual information. Go look across social media. You want to talk about a brand? You come here to the Big Blue Nation, which is the most insane basketball fan base on the planet, and you get that intertwined with a growing Kentucky women's basketball program. You're an in-state kid. You're going to be the biggest commit in UK history. If UK is the choice, you'll be the biggest commit in history. And then you have us and people, and I mean, there's other people too, but us who provide that coverage. Katie, you want to talk about building a brand for yourself? I feel like, am I biased? Duh. But also I feel like UK doesn't have to be the choice, I guess, but I feel like it makes the most sense for what it seems like she desires.
Yeah, I mean, I think that when you talk about brand, I do think obviously Kentucky has a bigger brand. She's from Kentucky, so she knows that. Yeah. But I mean, it's definitely split. You go to Western Kentucky, that's like mostly Louisville. Eastern Kentucky is mostly UK. And so she's from Louisville, isn't she?
I think she's technically from like Shelbyville, but she goes to school in Louisville. I know she might live in Louisville now. Yeah.
I would not be shocked if she chooses Louisville for the sole fact that that's where she's from. Like, that's what she knows. And right. She's probably been being recruited by Louisville since she was in middle school, Like, that was a program that was really ahead of its time when it comes to women's basketball, just sure. The sheer talent that it brought in. And so keeping an eye on some kind of in-state talent like Zakiya, it's not really out of the norm. And I think that the only thing really hurting Kentucky right now is the 3 coaching changes that we've had in however many years. So I feel like it could make Kentucky look almost like, I don't want to say unstable, but in a way it's kind of like, okay, is this a red flag that there's been this many,
sure,
but obviously Kenny is extremely talented. That's not a secret. Like, we all know that. We can all see that. But like I said, it wouldn't surprise me if she chooses Louisville. It also wouldn't surprise me if she chooses LSU just to go to a school that has more recent success. But like I said, if she wants to be this kind of like what's the word I'm trying to think of? Maybe like she wants to be like the beginning of some kind of movement, then she would choose UK. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's definitely valid. And here's another thing. We talked about what Zakiya can do and what she can be while she's here. Zakiya, if you somehow hear this, I just want you to know afterwards, you go on to the WNBA where you're going to have a nice career. You're going to do a lot of things. But when you come back here in 25, 30 years and your career is all said and done, I'm not sure at LSU or Louisville you could have a place where you can come back to and you can be loved. And just look at how Kentucky treats their alumni for men's basketball or football or anything. That would be the same thing for Zakiya. All right, Katie, now we're on to the blue-white game. Of course, you couldn't make it. But by the way, how was the wedding? How'd that go?
It was so beautiful. I'm so glad that I got to go. But, I missed the blue-white game, so.
It's unfortunate. But I would say you didn't miss a lot because it was interesting. When you saw the ticket prices, you kind of knew it wouldn't be full capacity. I didn't expect it to be half capacity. I thought it might be like more than that. But anyway, we're just going to kind of hit in some takeaways here for at least what I saw. Katie, to me, I feel like the time for talk is over. Like me and you, we're doing a podcast where all we do is talk, right? Now we're coming in here, and it's like we finally see Kenny Brooks with his clipboard pacing on the sidelines. You see him in Georgia, like offensive coordinator to the quarterback. Like it's real. There's substitutions. There's timeouts. It's all the assistants sitting down on the bench in their quarter zips. Like it's here, and it's like, oh my goodness! Like this man, Kenny Brooks, he's actually here at Kentucky. I don't know about you, but I'm still like that's crazy. He was just at Virginia Tech in the Final Four.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously didn't get to see the blue-white game. I wasn't even able to watch it on SEC Network, so I haven't hardly seen anything except for clips on Twitter. And I saw the highlights that KSR posted to the YouTube channel. I think the ball movement is really clean from what I could see. I mean, of course, those were just highlights, so not the bad parts. I'm assuming there were bad parts, things that didn't quite go well. But, I mean, from what we could see, the ball movement was good. The shooting was good. But, yeah, I mean, you were there, so you have more to say about that than I do.
Right. And Katie, I don't think it's any surprise that I took away that Georgia Amore, she's just really freaking good at basketball. Heck of a ball player. Something that really, that I really enjoy, Clara Strack and Clara Silva. Katie, as good as they are scoring, as good as they are everything else, they're good passers. They can pass the ball, which is going to be really nice, especially, if they're double teamed down on the post, they can kick it out to Deja Lawrence or Georgia for a three. That's going to be really nice to see. By the way, Silva has an unguardable step back post fadeaway. That should be really interesting come season time. And then something that I think you're gonna like, that I definitely like, Cassidy Rowe showed out, and she is improving so much. It's so awesome to see. Georgia's obviously the point guard. We've said this a couple times now, but Georgia's obviously the point guard. But Cassidy Rowe is going to be right there behind her to back her up. And I wouldn't even be surprised if they run Georgia at the 1 and Cassidy at the 2 at times.
Yeah.
It's really nice to have them together like that.
It is. And we got to talk to Cassidy about a week and a half ago. On Tuesday, we uploaded the interview to the YouTube channel. But just hearing her talk about her work ethic and even things that just inspire her to be a better player, it's honestly just so encouraging because, I mean, you said something when you talked to her dad. You did an article and you interviewed her dad, and he said that she wants to be better than the person that she sees in the mirror. So she's not comparing herself to any of her teammates. And as hard as that might be, she actually talked about that. She said that when you fall into that comparison, it hurts you more than it helps you. So as much as you want to be better than, the best person on the team, you can't let that get into your head. And I think that she has done such a great job, especially when she had her doubts that Kenny might not want to keep her on the team. I think she's done such a great job at staying in the gym, staying motivated, and working on literally everything. I mean, yeah, I think we are going to be seeing a pretty decent amount of her this season.
Yeah, and that's definitely something I'm excited to see. It's if she can hit the threes consistently, because that's what she did in the blue-white game. She was hitting the threes. If she can just do that, and if she can do what she did last season, where she was just a menace defensively, I mean, drawing charges left and right, I don't see how you can really keep her off the floor. Yeah. And then someone else who I don't know if you can really keep her off the floor at all either is Tiani Key. In 2021, she was a top 10 recruit coming out of high school. Katie, we finally saw glimpses of that in the blue-white game. She's bringing the ball down the floor. She's posting up. She's shooting shots. I mean, she's doing everything you would imagine. Oh, this is what a top 10 recruit looks like. Oh, okay, makes sense. They're actually performing at a high level that we haven't seen here since we started on the beat. That's for sure.
Yeah, and she's tall, she's fast, and so I think just having size like that can move the ball so well. And of course, we talk about Strack and Silva. They have the size and the speed that, like you said, we haven't seen before. I remember seeing Asia Petty moving the ball down the floor and being so confused. Like, why is this center trying to take the ball all the way down the floor? But now I feel like we have players who are meant to do that, who can play the post, but also be a guard if they have to do that for whatever reason. And I think that Tiani is one of those.
And it's just really crazy because at North Carolina, injuries and such too, but she wasn't getting a ton of playing time, and she really never got the chance to develop her three-point shot. And, in the blue-white game and just really even in the open practices we've been to, she's looked really good. Katie, we're going to go ahead and get on to some questions from our people here. You want to go ahead and get us started on that?
Yeah, so thank you guys for all the questions as always. If you have anything, just put it on the board. This is a little KS board plug. Get on the board and ask us questions. We'll answer them every week. So Bobby Blue asked, is there any chance that either of the two players, which is Dominika Prova and Jordan Obi, they both have suffered lower leg injuries? Bobby Blue said, can they be healed enough after surgeries to play this season? And Phoenix, I'll let you answer this one because you had the video.
Right. Yeah, there was a video that the UK Sports Network came out with where basically Kenny was talking and he said, he said we'll get them back for next year. But it sounded like kind of in that talking that they probably won't be back this year. Now Parova's certainly out for the season with her torn ACL. Obi, it's been stated that she's getting reevaluated in January, but Katie just, kind of seeing things, I'm assuming that they're not expecting that reevaluation to indicate that she's ready to go.
Yeah, because we talked about this a little bit last week, wanting to even put her in the court or on the court if she just happens to come back in January. Like, do you even want her to play because she's missed such a big portion of the season? Is she really ready? Because if she comes back in January, do you want to put her on the court right away, or do you want to let her have like a month of practice under her belt? And then at that point, you're getting into the postseason, and it's just like, do you want to mess with whatever kind of rhythm you have going on? So either way, if she comes back or if she doesn't, I don't think that the team is necessarily going to suffer, like if she doesn't come back. But, obviously we'd like to see her come back. But of course, recovery is more important than her being on the court, in my opinion.
Of course. And, the other thing is, too, you don't want to bring her back too soon. There's a chance of re-injury.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine they wouldn't even you would think they wouldn't even say you're cleared unless she's 110% ready. But maybe you want to make sure she's 120% ready.
Yeah, definitely.
Court.
Okay, so JQ UK asked, is there anything that surprised you about the team or an individual player during the blue-white scrimmage, and it can be a positive or negative concern?
Okay, so for me, we just listed all the positives, right? Mm-hmm. But if there was one lingering negative thing, it's that perimeter defense on this team is going to be a big question mark. I'm not going to point out names of certain players. If you look at that, actually, we only uploaded highlights. We didn't upload lowlights. But the guards, the perimeter defense, we'll see. I think there's a long way to go there, but I think the good thing about that is that you have Strack and Silva in the post, standing there 10 feet tall, ready to block a shot as soon as they come into the lane. But yeah, Katie, if there's anything that I left concerned about to any level, it was the perimeter defense.
Yeah, and like Phoenix said earlier, I was at a wedding, so I couldn't watch the game live, and all I've seen was the highlights, so I don't have anything negative to say just because I haven't seen it. I might change my mind here in a couple of weeks, but right now I have nothing bad to say because I haven't seen anything bad. So next question, Cats fan 117 asked, any insight on what NIL funding looks like for the women's basketball program? Probably need that to be strong for Brooks to reach his potential here and land elite talent from the portal and high school ranks.
So in my conversations with people, I will say if there's anything that I don't have a great read on, it's probably the NIL. But in my conversation, because I don't have direct contact with boosters or anything like that, but from talking to people close to those people, okay, so like a secondary source on that, I guess, it seems like Kentucky is at this point probably middle of the pack to borderline top 5 or 6 in the SEC, which let me say last season we were at the bottom. All right, last season we were at the bottom of the SEC. And, literally, Maddie Shear had her Paul Miller car and the money, and she still left because the NIL sucked. And probably just because she didn't want to be here anymore anyway. But there's definitely been improvement. So you may hear middle of the pack, borderline top 5, and you're like, oh, man, that's not good enough yet. Well, it's going to take time.
Yeah.
Kenny Brooks has not coached a single game yet here. Give him time to give something for these boosters and for people to go off of so that they'll pitch in and help.
Yeah. And we're coming from a program that was essentially at 0. So, yeah. Like you said, we haven't seen him coach a game yet. So this season is the rebuilding season. I do think that something that helps the NIL is Club Blue.
Yeah.
I don't have, again, like the best read on that, but I think that that is a incentive for people to donate to women's teams. Of course, it's not just for women, but there are options to donate to women's teams for perks and things like that. And then I think like really the only player so far that I've seen with genuine NIL deals has been Cassidy Rowe.
Yeah.
She did one with Canes. She did one with something called Hero Hydration. These were both last year, so haven't seen anything this year.
I bought a sweatshirt of hers this
Oh
year.
yeah, she does have her own store.
She does have some merch.
But other than that, I haven't seen much. I'm assuming when the season ramps up, we'll start to see more personal deals that way. But other than that, haven't seen much. But yeah, it's definitely going to be important for Brooks' future.
Right.
Because he got a lot of transfers this year. Obviously, there was something attractive about Kentucky. And maybe it is the money.
Maybe to a degree. And there's also, you have to think about, not everything NIL related is a social media post advertisement you're going to see.
Yeah.
Like, I imagine Georgia Amore, even though she was going to come here anyway because it's Kenny, I imagine she's probably going to get a pretty penny just because of how good she is.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of the NIL that's kind of, private and not really for us. I know Clara Silva signed with I'll say an NIL agency. I don't know verbatim if that's the correct lingo for what they are, but I know she signed that, so that's obviously good. But yeah, I imagine even though, like we said, Cassidy's the only one that I know that we've seen like, oh, look, they got merch. Wow. I imagine just about everyone on this roster is getting something.
Yeah.
Just because of that's kind of the nature of the sport nowadays, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. So Big Blue 59 asked, what is your assessment of Gabby Brooks? Will she play any quality minutes this season?
Gabby is, well, it's hard because she didn't play any last season at Virginia Tech. But just seeing her in practice in the blue and white game, she can shoot. She's a good shooter. It's just that I don't know if that's going to translate to the game. And so to answer the question about quality time, no.
I appreciate that. I mean, even though she's coach's daughter, it doesn't seem like that. I mean, growing up, I feel like you always have coaches' kids who get to play all the minutes, even if they're, not, they shouldn't really be out there. I think that she's not bad. Like, we know she's not a bad player.
No.
She's on the team. And it's not just because she's coach's daughter. Like, she puts in the work and she does what she needs to do. But yeah, I don't think that she'll really be playing unless there is something crazy that we just have not seen. I don't know. But
maybe behind closed doors she's the best player in practice. But I just personally don't think that. And so yeah, as far as quality minutes, I'm assuming by quality minutes you mean over 5 a game or something like that. And I just don't see that happening. That's nothing against Gabby. That's just the depth and the talent of this roster.
Yeah, I feel like the start of the season, especially, she'll be one of those players you throw in like the last 2 minutes of a game if you can't come back or if you're like ahead by too much.
There's no such thing as being ahead by too much.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, getting her that floor experience
is
important for us to be able to tell like the kind of player that she actually is when you get into the real playtime.
Right.
So Big Blue 59 also asked if Cassidy Rowe would be the backup point guard to Georgia. We kind of touched on this earlier, so.
And of course, the answer to that is yes. I think there are times where she's going to play alongside Georgia situationally as the two, but I think Katie primarily she's going to be Georgia's backup.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I feel like that's all we have to say about that. I think she'll be the backup, but yeah, I think she'll also see floor with Georgia, which I think will be fun to watch.
Let me say, I know Georgia Amore. She's Georgia Amore, and if you're being her backup, that doesn't sound like a great thing. But Georgia, she's not going to play 40 minutes a game. I wouldn't say she's going to play 35. So if Cassidy Rowe can come in for 10 to somewhere between 10 to 15 minutes a game and contribute, Katie, I think that's plenty.
Even being backup for Deja, I could see if she's shooting as consistently as what you said she was in the blue and white game. Right. I think we could definitely see her in the 2 spot. Of course, she's 5'5", so her and Georgia are about the same height there. So maybe you don't really want to have that. And I don't know. I'm not Kenny, so I can't really.
I think there's definitely situations where she's going to play at the 2, maybe if she's hot that night. But I think primarily she will be, whenever Georgia's not in, she's in running the point.
Yeah. Okay, so Big Blue Dog asked, instead of relying on a transfer or low-ranked point guard commit from the 2025 class, is there any way that Lexi Blue can slide down and be a point guard?
It's Kenny Brooks. So if there's anything to know about the man is that he is he's crazy and he will do the unthinkable with his lineup. I'm gonna say no. Well, first of all, we're not gonna get. I'm just gonna go ahead and put my, I don't know what you call it, crystal ball or whatever out there. We're not gonna get a 25 point guard commit. I talked to someone on the staff not too long ago, and they're like, "Hey, man, 25 point guard." I mean, they literally went out of their way to be like, the 25 point guard class is not great.
Yeah.
And I think even if it was good, Kenny's going to want to go to the portal and get an experienced point guard who has some minutes under her legs. And then the other thing about Lexi is just like, how do I put this? Like, she's a wing. She has ball handling abilities, but Katie, being a point guard is a little bit different than being a wing who can handle the ball, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like being able to see the court and have that IQ is probably one of the most important aspects of being a point guard.
Yeah.
So I don't think that it's impossible. I think that after she gets this year under her belt, she's a freshman, so obviously she's not going to be the starting point guard. And then, like you said, we're not getting any 2025 recruiting point guards. So if for some reason Kenny cannot find a quality point guard in the portal, I first think he would go to Cassidy Rowe.
That would be what I think too, yeah.
And then if for some reason she would probably never do this because she loves Kentucky, but if Cassidy decided to leave early for whatever reason, I could see maybe Lexi, but
maybe.
Even before, I would put even Sanaya before. Like, there's other choices that you would pick before Lexi.
Right.
All right. So next question was from Me Too. They said, with the current expectation that Obi and Dominique return, how does that affect recruiting efforts, and will there be any portal recruiting? Of course, we talked earlier, we're not really expecting either of them to return.
Well, we're expecting them to return next year, just not.
Well, yeah, next year, but not this season.
Right. I mean, obviously there's gonna be portal recruiting. I mean, there kind of has to be, but as far as just recruiting in general, coming into the season, I thought the staff was going to go after 5 commits, but I think it may be more like 2 or 3 high school commits, just because of the nature of the beast. I mean, I think they're just from my conversations, I think they're expecting to basically return everybody besides Deja and Georgia who are leaving because they have to. I think, it's not certain, it's not written in stone, but I think Jordan Obi's coming back. So that's another huge addition. That's basically that's basically a portal get in itself. She's not playing the season. She transferred from Penn. I mean, that's basically already a portal get you would have. Mm-hmm. So I think as far as recruiting and everything goes, I think the main difference is that now you have 2 less wings you have to go after. But you still have to go, I think they're aiming for 2 or 3 high-quality high school kids. And then if someone transfers out that they're not expecting to, they'll hit the transfer portal to replace them.
Yeah, and, women's basketball is very different than men's in the sense that you don't recruit kids out of high school and then they're automatically starting and then they spend 1 year in college and then go to the NBA. Like, right. That's not the way that women's basketball works, at least at this point. So basically, I think what he would be recruiting is future talent, not the talent that he absolutely needs. So even though he doesn't technically need to recruit wings, like he probably still will, I would hope,
right.
Just because if for some reason maybe Dominique is not ready to come back, maybe she hasn't recovered, like then you have to rely on a wing, and that's one less depth spot that you have. So having like someone to come in and fill in that final spot, it's like, I don't know, maybe I'm just like rambling, but I kind of feel like I don't feel like it's going to affect recruiting that much.
Not too much. It's just the only difference is that now I think honestly, I mean, it's obviously a positive impact that it would have. It's like, okay, instead of having to get, 5 kids, I can go get 2.
Yeah.
And then really you need the transfer portal for if someone leaves that you're not expecting.
Right.
That's what I would think
Yeah.
anyway.
I agree. Okay, so last question was by Digger808. They said, what are our chances to land Kaylin Carroll and what would be her role on the team? I've seen her classified as a wing and a forward, and I didn't know if she would be perimeter or inside player and what her dribbling and shooting skill sets were.
Kaylin, I got the chance to watch her play in person at the Run for Roses event in Louisville. She's a wing. She's a wing. She's definitely not. She can play she can play the 4 and the 5, but she's a wing. She's you said perimeter or inside. She'll be on the perimeter most likely. That's just how talented she is. She can shoot the ball and she can score down low. I mean, top 20 kid in the class is going to be able to do a lot. But as far as that goes, I think Kaylin Carroll is definitely more of a perimeter player and a wing more than a forward and on the inside player.
Yeah.
And what are our chances to land her, Katie? I think they're about as good as anyone else has, to be honest. A lot of times when you don't hear about a recruit, and this is the case with Jordan Obi back in like April. When I heard Jordan Obi was visiting, I didn't hear much at all after that, and I was like, should I be concerned? Obviously, you see how that worked out. She's here now. When you get a recruit like that, who you don't hear a ton about, sometimes it's a good sign. So I'm not saying Kentucky's landing her. I'm just saying Kentucky has, I would think, about as much as a chance as anyone else that she's considering has.
Yeah, I mean, you've definitely been more involved in the recruiting, so I can't say that I know much about Kaylin Carroll and what she's, trying to do. But
Sure.
yeah, I think we're at the point that it's like an even playing field. There's not really much more that a school can offer besides money. It's NIL. It's that era where players are probably going to go where they're going to have success and they're going to make money. And so I think this goes back to our NIL question where we really don't know yet how much NIL this program is bringing in. So I don't know how attractive that might be to, someone like that. Like if she's top 20, she might just want to go somewhere that's going to pay her the most. It might be as simple as that. So
it could be.
I don't know, but yeah, just food for thought, I guess.
And then Katie, we're going to go ahead and move on to, of course, we're November 4th. It's coming. It is like a train on the tracks about to run me over. And we're going to do a little season preview, as you can see on the graphic, or if you're listening on podcast, you hear me say it now. We're going to do a season preview. We're going to go game by game here. Katie, we have our wins and losses kind of jotted down. So why not start with November 4th? USC Upstate. Is that a win or a loss, Katie? I think we can agree that should be a win, right?
Yeah, I'm going to go with win.
Okay. And now how about, let's see, our next game here in Northern Kentucky, November 7th.
I also think that will be a win. That's Space Jam night, by the way. So
okay, there we go. Wofford at home.
I have this as a win, but I also put in my notes that I think that there might be a couple of games that we lose that we probably shouldn't. And I just picked this one. There was no specific reason that I picked this as a loss, but I think it should be a win, but it could be a loss.
Okay, I have it as a win too. Louisville. Okay, so Louisville game, Katie. This is gonna be an interesting one because I have it as a win, but Louisville's gonna be better than us coming into the game. That's just a fact.
Yeah,
they play a very good UCLA team before us in France. I think they're playing them in France, and that'll be an interesting test of. Is Louisville really the team that lost a 20 to Ole Miss, or they just beat UCLA and oh crap, we might lose this game?
Yeah, I have it as a win as well, but again, I put in my notes could be a loss. I do think that having like the home court advantage will be helpful, especially if fans show out like we expect them to. I think the energy in Memorial Coliseum might be enough to like give Kentucky that extra edge. And then also, if we get a football win to Louisville that day, maybe the women's team will be able to pull out a double victory that day.
We'll see. We'll definitely see. The next game on our list is Purdue Fort Wayne at home. Katie, I feel like that's easy win, right?
I agree.
Okay. Now we're heading on to the Music City Classic down in Nashville. We have Arizona State, that first game on that Tuesday. Arizona State, they weren't great last season. I'm not expecting them to be much better, so I have that as a win in my book.
Also have it as a win.
Now, my first loss of the season.
Sorry, that was Zach.
Okay. No, you're good. I'll just pick up on that as soon as. Okay, we good?
Yeah, we should be. I don't know why it's doing this. Oh my gosh. Is it like really bad? Like, can you hear it really bad?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know what to do other than turn my volume down.
Tell Zach to stop texting you.
I know. Okay. Wait, maybe I'll just open my messages on my phone and see if that keeps it from coming through to my laptop.
Okay. I know where I was, so I can pick right back up. All right. 3, 2, 1. And Katie, my first loss of the season. I'm sorry. We weren't going to go 28-0. I'm sorry. I have to go to Illinois the next day.
I also have Illinois as a loss. They're ranked above us in the way too early 25.
Are they?
I think so.
If they're not, they could be.
It's either like they're either one spot below us or they're above us, and I can't remember exactly, but I think they're above us.
I know with Kentucky and Illinois, they're both borderline top 20, top 25 teams. Mm-hmm. Illinois won it's a new postseason tournament. I think it was called the WBIT, Women's Basketball Invitational Tournament. I think they won that last season after, losing. They came out of the Big Ten tournament looking horrible, and then they went on to win that. I think they finished with a 19-15 record.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a game. That's definitely a good trap game. Because the next game, Katie, coming up, SEC ACC Challenge against North Carolina on the road. Hate to say it, but I have back-to-back losses in my prediction here.
I also do. I think North Carolina will probably be a loss. I think that might just come down to being on the road. This is like the first true road game for Kentucky besides the Tennessee game or the Nashville games. So I don't know. Yeah. This is like the first true road game for Kentucky besides the 2 in Nashville. So I also have it as a loss. I think that I think it could be a win, but I more so think it'll be a loss.
And the thing is, too, North Carolina is so good. But there's also, if I'm going to be an optimist about that game, Kenny Brooks is not dominated. I won't say that. But he's done really well against North Carolina. When he's played them in the ACC. So it'll be interesting to see how that translates. But North Carolina, they're such a good team, and I know I'm just trying to be an optimist about it. Kenny Brooks has done a really good job against North Carolina when he's played them in the ACC. I think he's like 8-3 in their last 11 games or something like that. But just with the roster that we currently have and how early that game is in the season, I just don't know if that's a game that Kentucky's going to come out and win.
Yeah, I agree.
Moving on to Queens. Who in the hell is Queens? I'm assuming they're from Queens, New York. Katie, we win that game, right?
Yeah, I put win.
All right. Now, I play Purdue at Purdue Saturday, December 14th, but I have that as a win. I don't think Purdue's very good, to be honest. I don't think they're going to be great, so I have that as another W in our books.
Yeah, I do too as well.
And then moving on to Belmont. Belmont as a team. Belmont is so weird because they're up and down a lot. But, of course, at home, it's a mid-major school. I have that as a win.
I also have it as a win.
The Western Kentucky Hilltoppers, Saturday, December 28th. Katie, you have that as a win. I imagine you do too.
I do.
And so to wrap up non-conference play anyway, that would mean me and you both – we both have the losses to Illinois and North Carolina. And so that would make us have only 2 losses in the non-conference.
Louisville.
You have a Louisville loss?
Oh, that was the one I said could go both ways. So
okay, but you had that down as a win in your prediction. Okay. So yeah, we only had the 2. So there could be 3. We'll say 2 to 3 losses. I think if you can head into SEC play with that record, of only having 2 to 3 losses in the non-conference, I think you're in decent shape.
Yeah.
Moving on to the first SEC game, January 2nd against Mississippi State at home. Katie, I have this as a loss.
You do?
I do.
I have this as a win.
And I'll explain why. Sam Purcell, head coach down there. I don't know why. I think it's just the way he speaks. I love this man. And he's got a good team going on down there. Honestly, Anaya is going to be pretty good down there, obviously. But you have, Jordan and so I can't remember all the players off the top of my head, but I think Mississippi State is being underrated by people, not only by us in the SEC, but people nationally. I think they're a team that's going to be pretty decent heading into conference play. Vanderbilt away, January 5th.
Have that as a win.
I also have that as a win. I will actually be at this Florida away game, making a little vacation out of it. Katie, I have that as a win. How about you?
I also have it as a win.
Hopefully, we're about to get on a nice stretch of wins here. Auburn at home, win?
Win.
Georgia away, win?
Loss.
Loss. Okay, so tell me why you have loss.
Well, we played Georgia twice this season, so I think we're going to lose once. I don't have like a real true reason other than the fact that I just think that we'll lose one and win one. I think we'll split. So I think we're more likely to lose the away game. That's just why I picked that.
Right. And there's always the nature of your SEC play so tough. You can always drop a game you shouldn't.
Yeah.
And that could definitely be that. Moving on to Texas A&M on the road. Katie, I have that as a win.
I do too.
Arkansas at home, January 26th. Katie, I think this is one that Kentucky should win handily, but I think it's going to be closer than it should be. I don't know why. I've seen that game on the schedule, and I'm like, I don't like that. But I still do have it as a win.
I also have it as a win.
Now, this is another tricky one because you're heading into the hardest stretch of the season. January 30th at home against a really good Alabama team. I still have that as a win, but Katie, would not shock me at all if we lost that one.
Yeah, I do have it as a win, but again, in my notes, I said this one could definitely go both ways. I expect a win, but a loss wouldn't be surprising.
And then there's a stretch from February 2nd to March 2nd, which has to be one of the most brutal schedules in the country. And it starts with playing at Oklahoma. Katie, I think we might agree on this. I have that as a loss.
I have it as a loss. Again, I think it could go both ways, but Oklahoma is very good. So I'm expecting loss, but I wouldn't be surprised with a win.
8 days later on February 10th, you have at Ole Miss. Katie, I have back-to-back losses, unfortunately. How about you?
I do have this one as a win, but that's just because I have more losses towards the end.
I do too. Yeah.
That's definitely fair.
And then we have Texas at home. They're coming into this game. They're meeting almost certainly a top 10 team, probably a top 5 team. Hate to say it because I love this team. I think we lose 3 in a row.
I think we lose this game as well, just because Texas is number 4 in the preseason poll. I just don't see how we could come out with a win unless we surprise everyone and we're actually the best team in the country. But yeah, I have this one as a loss.
That'd be a great surprise. Now, Katie, we already know what you're going to say for this one because you talked about the split, Georgia at home, so you have it as a win. I have it as a win too.
Yeah.
And then we have Missouri on the road. Missouri, they stink. They're not very good. I would say this should be an easy win.
I agree.
And then we have our last 3 games of the season, which is by far the hardest last 3 games of the regular season that anyone else has in the country, and I'm willing to argue that with anybody. LSU at home, Katie, I have that as a loss. How about you?
I also have it as a loss.
Tennessee at home. Now, Katie, this is one that I feel good about. If there's a, I don't know if hot take is the right word, but if there's a game that I'm like, I feel great about it, it's beating Tennessee at home on February 27th.
I agree. I have this one as a win. I think also, they have a new coach, Kim Caldwell from Marshall. She performed very well at Marshall, but again, she's kind of hit the ground running at Tennessee, but I just think Kenny's done it better. That's just my opinion. And I think, again, home court advantage will be helpful. It's a rivalry game, so the fans will probably show out. And, I feel good about this one.
And then the hardest game on the schedule just happens to be the last at South Carolina. Katie, I lost, right?
I want to say win, but I have to say loss.
And so I think that puts us both at 20-8 overall for the regular season. Which, Katie, that's a very successful first year of the Kenny Brooks era, 20-win season with a, This isn't men's basketball where there's 31 games on the schedule. There's only 28 this year. I think there's like 29 last year.
Yeah.
NCAA tournament finish, Katie. Where do you have Kenny Brooks? Where do you have his team finishing in the NCAA tournament?
I said Sweet 16.
And that's what I said too. Now, I didn't mean to skip over it, but I was just thinking about the big prize. What do you think about the SEC tournament? Because this one's interesting. Remember last year we played in that first round and it was miserable because we played in that first round game. You know, who in the world plays on Tuesday in the SEC tournament? Of course, I think Kentucky gets a bye. I actually think Kentucky makes it all the way to the semifinals, meaning I think they would win, if my math is right, 2 games SEC tournament before they run into like a Texas or an Oklahoma.
I agree, but again, I think tournament time is so wishy-washy because teams can do things that you've never seen before. I would agree with the semifinals, but I could see a runners-up. I could see even a championship, but I think depending on how things fall and where teams are on the bracket, it really could go anyway. Like I said, I agree with the semifinals, but even if we do meet up with South Carolina or Texas before the finals, I mean, I could see Kentucky coming out with the win in that way.
Right.
Even if like we lose in the regular season, I think we have a chance. So I'm going to say semifinals, but I'll be optimistic.
Maybe Kenny Brooks could bring us our second SEC tournament title in what would be 4 years. I think that'd be right. Second SEC tournament championship in 4 years. That would be kind of crazy, to be honest, but I'd be all down for it. All right, so Katie, we just did our season preview there. 20-8 with those kinds of finishes in the SEC and NCAA tournament. I think that's a very successful season. But, you know, far be it for us to look ahead. We have November 4th coming. We have USC Upstate coming. We'll be there to see you all there, see the team, see Kenny Brooks, see how everything's going. So from Phoenix Stevens and Katie Hutchison, again, thank you all so much for tuning in. It means the world to us that we're actually being able to, you know, the Memorial Memo, it's here and it's great. And like I said, first episode was successful, so we're glad, and we're hoping that continues on. Katie, anything you need to say before we head out here?
Just echo you. I'm very grateful for everyone who tunes in, everyone who wants to ask a question. Yeah, that's basically it. And we'll see you guys next week.
There we go.